Hey there everyone, just wanted to welcome you to this worship project called Presence and introduce it to you a little bit. The whole thought about it is to try and press reset in our lives and in our language and mostly in our prayers about what it means to be seeking the presence of God, to be experiencing it, and then also to be asking God to help us to know Him more, know His presence more in all of life together. And so I hope you sit back, listen to the track, enjoy that, but then watch some of the videos as well, ask some questions, stimulate some prayer amongst yourselves, and ask Jesus to help us to know and experience more of His presence in our lives.
God, as great as you, nothing on earth or in all of heaven, even close to, and your company remains day after day with me.
Well, I think thus far in my life, my main experiences of the presence of God and encountering the presence of God would be mainly a knowing and a belief that He's there. And that can be interspersed with moments when I bump into an experience that is not part of my normal daily experience. And I then have to go on a journey of trying to unpack what that experience was. Was that God? Was it something else?
Found in the place of your presence. You are worthy to have all my heart and all my devotion. This is for you, with all of my life and all of my strength, God. I will love you and your company remains day after day with me.
God is being next to this spring of life, like a beautiful, crisp, cold spring in a desert, in a scorching hot day. It's a friend who loves me, who cares for me, who gives me life. And without the presence of God, I cannot live.
You restore me, for you adore me. Come light the fire again, and you find me and you refine me. Come light the fire again. You restore me, for you adore me. Come light the fire again.
Be real in the presence of God, and you can experience it firsthand on your own.
The best way I can think of describing what it means to me to be in the presence of God or to experience the presence of God is a verse I read recently in the Message Bible that talked about some disciples who found themselves buried in a cloud and then they became deeply aware of God. And for me, that's my experience. When I would say that I have experienced the presence of God, it's when I become more deeply aware of God in any given moment, whether it's something He says, whether it's an impression in my spirit of something that He feels, but just becoming more deeply aware of God.
Come light the fire again. You restore me, for you adore me. Come light the fire again.
So I think songs like this tend to come from either places of great experience about God, or sometimes great experiences of lack of experience about God. And we all have had encounters with God in meetings or in times of prayer or whatever. And I think this song really has come from a prolonged period in my life of not having that strong sense of God's presence. So the song's tumbled out of that. Sometimes you ask the questions, God, where are you? Why can't I feel you? Other people seem to be feeling you. And so sometimes things are written from plenty, from that place of plenty, and other times they're written from places of thirst and hunger, and that's really where this song is written from. And so I've been thinking a lot about the presence of God and praying a lot about that. And one of the things that really struck me from the message when I was reading about this recently was the encounter where Peter, James and John went up the hill with Jesus, and they had this amazing encounter with the spirit of Moses, the spirit of Elijah. And if you read it in the NIV or the ESV or whatever, it talks about the presence of God, but in the message it just simply says that as they found themselves buried in the cloud, they became deeply aware of God.
I mean, it's interesting hearing you talk about like songs can come from either a place of plentiful, like I really feel like I'm encountering God right now, and He's an overflow of that, or I'm not feeling like that, I'm not experiencing that. Which is quite interesting because I'm not a songwriter, so if I don't feel like I'm in that place where I'm encountering God, I feel there's a lack in my life, that tends to affect me in a negative way, and I might get a bit down, press the self-destruct button a bit, and the last thing I actually want to do is go, oh God, I'm really hungry for you. It's normally after I've been through a bit of a wilderness, if you like, a bit of a lack, a bit of a self-destructive period, and I get to a place where actually I'm not doing great here, help me out God, and that's normally like the start of a cry, I think.
When I read the sentence, and they became deeply aware of God, that put new words to that concept of what it meant to be in the presence of God for me. Because you can think about the presence as being this kind of like ethereal, almost comforting, external force, and yet He is within us, the Spirit of God dwells within us, we're possessed by Him. So I don't know what you guys thought about that, but when I read the line, they found themselves buried in the cloud and then they became deeply aware of God, I thought, flip me, I'm so unaware of God a lot of the time. And those beautiful moments where whether you're at the front of a meeting or God ministers to you privately in your bedroom, and you just find yourself much more aware of what God is saying and the fact that He's here anyway. So that's why I started asking myself the question, what am I doing to pursue those encounters with God? Or what am I doing to pursue God in a way that means I'm just generally more aware of Him in my life, rather than having these peaks and troughs of just some kind of random, occasional glimpses of what it's like to be in His presence.
Because we understand that so little, maybe we are actually experiencing more of that than we think. It's just that we're not really aware of that.
Even that dynamic with those guys in the cloud, and it's just that imagery of them finding themselves buried in the cloud. It's, if you're like on Dartmoor or something, and the fog and the mist sets in like ridiculously quickly, suddenly you can't even see in front of you.
Last Christmas I'm walking along a pathway when I was taking a break over the Christmas period, and there's a lady up ahead in a wheelchair, and as I pass her, I've never had this before, but I just felt a voice say to me, I didn't hear anything, but I just felt a voice say, she's too young to be in the wheelchair. So after about 20 seconds of having walked on past her, I kind of thought, I'm kind of tired of not knowing the reality of this thing that we read about and we talk about a lot around church service, the presence of God. Is the presence of God just a matter of talk, or is there an experience to have, whatever that experience is? And so I thought, I'm going to find out. So I went back to the lady, and cutting a long story short, I was able to pray for her reasons for why she was in the wheelchair. It just took 20 seconds, and I just declared the love of God over her. And then I said, "Is there anything you can do to see if there's anything's actually happening here, or whether this is just something that happens in the mind?" And so she got up and started to walk, and she hasn't been able to do this for 1.5 years. And after about 20 seconds being out of the wheelchair, she's going, "This is amazing, this is amazing." And I said, what is? Because I've never seen it before, so I don't know whether this is normal or whether it's not. And so she goes, "I haven't been able to do this in 1.5 years. I haven't been able to move my neck. I haven't been able to walk." I know you did, pain-free for 1.5 years. I said, "So what are you experiencing now?" She said, "I can't feel anything." And I said, "Well, do you want to walk a bit further?" So she let go of my hand. She was able to walk a bit further, and God just came and met her there on the path. But what I thought about the situation is that I wasn't feeling anything. It wasn't like I felt something come upon me. I didn't hear a voice from heaven. I didn't see a lightning bolt in the sky. But it was just a subtle sort of movement in my spirit that prompted me. And I thought, how the heck could something so amazing as a woman getting out of a wheelchair be almost based upon me picking up the subtlety of just a slight murmur in my spirit? And you would think that if it was God Almighty, you would know when He's wanting you to do something. And so, as I kind of as I've looked back at that more, and as I've sought to kind of figure out what happened in the moment and how I can respond to that in the future, I'm learning that the more I give attention to that little murmur, the stronger it grows. And it's like following a little bit of string, that as you follow it, it turns into a bit of rope, and as you follow that, it turns into, something bigger.
I mean, I can definitely tell the difference in seasons of my life when I've been aware of God's presence and when I haven't, or haven't even wanted to have anything to do with God's presence. And the change, I think, is dramatic. Like, I'd go through a couple of years of thinking, "Wow, what have you done for me recently, God? I don't, and I'm miserable, and I'm horrible to people, and I'm just self-centered, and I'm doing everything for me as opposed to enriching God's kingdom and enriching other people and trying to help other people." And then flip side of that, when I was discussing with my mum something a couple of months ago about a pretty big decision in my life, and we were talking about it, and she goes, "Look, I really want you to do this because I feel that this is what God's plan for you is." And as she said that, I just felt like something lifted, overcome by the sense of peace that I have not felt in years and years and years. And it was purely because that decision was based on what God's best intentions for me were, rather than, what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, for me, I can definitely see the difference in myself when I'm living for God and when I'm living for me. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like,
Big time.
physically, people have commented and said, "You look so much better." Physically, people have said, "I like spending time with you now." Not like, people have said, "You're a joy to be around now." And I'm like, do you know what? Actually, it's not worth trying to do it the easy way. Because at the end of the day, it's not the easy way.
Yeah. So did you find yourself doing anything after that? So did you kind of find yourself hungry for more of that sense of His presence?
For sure.
And what did you do?
Well, for me, I connect best with God through worship. And, for me, it's been a target of mine to not just sing the song, but actually listen to what the song's saying, listen to, what the lyrics of the song actually mean. And, if I'm asked to lead worship or whatever, I won't just pick best sellers. I won't just pick the ones the crowd pleases everyone wants. It's more like, okay, what's the message of the talk? How will people best respond to the message of that talk? And it's, more, and I find that I connect with it through God a lot more when I'm doing that, rather than just, I like this song, everyone likes this song. Yeah.
Having been someone that's grown up in a Christian family, and having been someone that's grown up around church all my life, and been surrounded with all the lingo and the CDs and all the hoo-ha that comes with Christian community, the thing that still remains on my heart as the biggest excitement is I get to know this amazing God. I get to experience Him, I get to know Him, I get to go deeper with Him, and I think that's the thing, is that we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg with God.
Yeah.
And so
there's an invitation to scratch that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the danger is sometimes I think, okay, I've got my neat theology sorted out in my mind, that's my experience of God, that's my encounter with God, that's how I know He's with me, is that I've got all my neat little thoughts of understanding it in my head, when actually He's a person and He's real and He's there, and the invitation is that I can get to explore that for all eternity. And what on earth am I going to find when I do that?
Yeah.
What am I going to find in the God of love? What am I going to find in the one who, for some reason, has given His life for me? That is bizarre. I find that painful to think about. And so it's like, wow, what can I find? What is there to find in God?
So there's an exploration, isn't there? A discovery.
Yeah.
So there's like there's infinite eternities of stuff to find out about God, and yet, from my point of view, I just know so often I'm not proactive in seeking Him. Because that word is such a Christian word, isn't it? Oh, I will seek you. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go off looking for Him in BD3. He's not in any one location. He's
behind a bush.
He's on it. Yeah, you find the burning bush. But so I just try and get us beyond Christian cliche where it's like, oh, I'll seek you, I will pursue. Well, how am I seeking you, Jesus, and how am I pursuing you? I want us to get beyond just saying, oh, I'm seeking you. What does that look like? And just for me, I know that seeking His presence has to involve stopping, pausing. It has to. There's traffic. So much traffic everywhere. I have to pause, I have to stop, and I do have to be quiet. And some of these things are just foreign to us.
Yeah.
In culture, stopping, being quiet, listening.
Do you think one of the reasons why there's such a struggle in doing that is because I'm afraid to stop, and I'm afraid...
In case I don't hear Him.
In case I don't hear Him, and actually, do I believe that I will? Do I really believe there is someone there to encounter? And so the fear is, if I stop playing video games, if I stop listening to my music, or it's not about obviously stopping stuff that's bad, but if I just give a chance to listen to someone in the same way that if you were trying to have a conversation with me, I wouldn't be busy with Esther because I'm not going to hear what you're saying. So, okay, let me stop here, Nick, what you're saying. I'm afraid that actually there isn't anyone speaking, and so I'm going to be left with nothing, and that causes a massive fear.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so ultimately, I live according to what I really believe, and that is I don't really think there's anything there to pursue, to encounter, to be filled with, and therefore I'm going to stick with this that I'm doing because that's filling the hole, that's filling the void.
Yeah, for me, I think it's phenomenal. Like, it gets me every time that no matter how much we blatantly disobey God, He's always there. He's always saying, come back to me. I still love you unconditionally. I still want you.
Even when you don't trust that He's
even
there.
when you don't trust that He's there. Even when we don't want Him there, He still wants us there. Like, there's a sketch that I saw the other day about, it's called, have you heard the Lifehouse thing? It's a sketch basically, and it's this girl, she starts off entwined with God, in sync with God, she's dancing with God, in sync with God, and then over the course of the sketch she gets distracted by money, she gets distracted by boys, she gets distracted by alcohol, and she gets completely bogged down, and it gets really dark towards the end. But then there's God fighting His way through all of that stuff, and He claws her back and grabs her at the end, and it's like, yeah, I don't care that you've done all that. Yes, I would have preferred you didn't do that. That wasn't my plan for you, but I made you, I love you, and you're still perfect to me.
Yeah.
Hence the line in the song that says, I restore you, for I adore you.
Exactly.
In terms of God's presence, I think one thing that's really, really important is that even though God is present everywhere, there's the difference between that and His felt sense of personal presence. And God is intensely relational And so knowing his presence in relationship with him is totally different from the fact that he's present everywhere all the time. So when I was about 7, I had my first real encounter with the presence of God when I became a Christian. And it was in that unique combination of mixture of nerves, mixture of excitement, and you just sense that God is present doing something. And it was in that moment I became a Christian. And from then on, you have these ebbs and flows, mountaintops, valley experiences where sometimes you feel so intensely aware of God, like the guys in the cloud when they were buried in the cloud, and other times you just don't feel anything. But I think just to flag up the difference between God's presence, generally speaking, his omniscience, and his felt sense of personal presence with us, is really what we're talking about, I think.
I often think about talking to people about God, and then I think about talking about the personal experiences that I've had of him. You're talking about the personal knowing God rather than, I just believe that he exists like the force of the universe. And I often think I feel really strange in talking about some of those things because it doesn't seem like normal everyday language to fit into my everyday life. But I find it often helpful just thinking, well, before I start talking about a personal God, or before I start talking about what his presence is like, or whatever, it's just coming back and coming back to the beginning almost, to think, well, where have I come from? Am I made? Am I just an accident? Am I just part of evolution? Am I just random? But if I actually believe that I was made, then who is it that made me? What are they like? And for me, that's what being a Christian is about, is knowing where I've come from, and now exploring the one that made me, and trying to press into that every day, which doesn't happen. Sometimes I don't care because the worries of life have taken me over, whatever. But I can't help but come back to that I'm made by someone, and I want to discover what he's like.